Before the blood moon bled across the sky and the solar eclipse cloaked the sun in darkness, an ancient prophecy whispered through the ages was awakening again. On October 1st, Yom Kippur, Judgment Day, arrives not as a forgotten ritual, but as the moment when the books of life and death are sealed forever. This is not coincidence. This is the convergence of Israel's prophetic destiny, the signs of the end times, the very heartbeat of God's prophetic clock. Why have these cosmic events, blood moon, solar eclipse, autumn equinox, lined up so precisely in 2025? Could it be that we are living in the season foretold for centuries, the season when heaven itself shakes the earth awake? Think of it. Every generation has feared the end, but never before have the signs been this clear, this aligned, this impossible to ignore. The blood moon above Israel has always marked turning points in history. 1948, the rebirth of a nation. 1967, the reclaiming of Jerusalem. And now again, in our days, it burns as both a warning and a promise. The solar eclipse that darkened the world was not just a shadow, it was God's reminder that human power bends before His will, and the equinox, that fragile balance of light and darkness, reminds us of a truth written since creation itself. The scales will tip, and the time of decision is at hand. Why now? Why us? Why this very generation? In this video, you will discover why the Feast of Trumpets echoed across the world in 2025 with 100 shofars, why Yom Kippur is more than ritual but the rehearsal of the final judgment, why the Feast of Tabernacles reveals God's eternal desire to dwell with His people, and why 3 divine clocks, creation, Jubilee, and the 2,550 days of prophecy, are all striking at once. You will understand how the wars in Israel, the chaos among nations, and the silence of heaven are not random headlines, but pages turning in the story of prophecy. But here is the question I want you to wrestle with. If the books of life and death were opened today, where would your name be written? Do you see these signs as fear or as hope? Comment below what you believe these blood moons and eclipses truly mean, because voices around the world are divided. Some see superstition, others see salvation. But one thing is undeniable. The sky itself is speaking. Stay with me, because as we walk through these prophecies together, you will not only see why October 1st matters, you will feel the urgency of the hour. And if this message touches your spirit, if it brings light into your heart, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. For the time of grace is still open, but the gates of judgment are closing, and every heartbeat draws us closer to the moment when the trumpet will sound. The blood moon, a dual message of wrath and grace. When the moon turns to blood, the heavens seem to cry out with both warning and promise. For generations, the blood moon has risen above the land of Israel like a living sign, painting the night sky with hues of crimson as if creation itself were speaking. In 1948, when Israel was reborn after centuries of exile, the blood moon appeared. In 1967, as Jerusalem was reclaimed in the Six-Day War, the moon again glowed red above a city trembling with conflict and hope. These were not random events. They were reminders, woven into the fabric of time, that history moves to the rhythm of God's prophetic clock. The Scriptures describe it clearly. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and dreadful day of the Lord comes. The blood moon carries two voices, one of judgment and one of mercy. On one side, it warns of wars, destruction, and divine wrath poured out upon nations that defy him. On the other, it whispers of redemption, of the Lamb whose blood was shed so that forgiveness might cover every soul. It is a sign of severity, and yet a beacon of hope. Picture a family gathered beneath such a sky. The father lifts his child and points upward, saying, "Do you see? Even the heavens remind us of his power." The child, eyes wide with wonder, feels both awe and fear. That is the essence of the blood moon. It awakens us, shakes us, pulls us out of slumber. Many dismiss it as an ordinary eclipse, but history has shown otherwise. Whenever blood moons have crowned the sky over Israel, destinies shifted, nations trembled, and prophecies moved closer to fulfillment. For you, listening now, the blood moon carries a personal message. It is not only a sign for nations, but a call for the heart. Where do you stand when heaven paints the sky with crimson? Do you see only danger, or do you also see the hope of forgiveness? Comment your thoughts below, because this question has stirred debate for centuries. Some believe the blood moon is terror. Others see it as love. But all can agree, it cannot be ignored. The lesson here is simple yet profound. Life is fragile, fleeting, and marked by signs that point us beyond ourselves. The blood moon reminds us that God's timeline is moving, that every heartbeat draws us closer to a decision that cannot be delayed. It calls us to humility, to turn from pride, to embrace the grace offered at the cross. As the crimson light fades and the moon returns to silver, the choice remains. And with it, the invitation to prepare for what comes next. From the shadow of the blood moon, we move to the deeper darkness of the sun itself. The solar eclipse. Darkness before the dawn. There is a moment when day turns to night, and the world holds its breath. The birds grow silent. The wind stills. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the earth. And for a few minutes, the sun itself is blotted out. This is the terror and wonder of a solar eclipse. But beyond its beauty lies an ancient warning. I will make the sun go down at noon and darken the earth in broad daylight. The prophet Amos spoke those words centuries ago, and Jesus repeated them when describing the signs before his return. History bears witness. In 1914, as Europe stood on the brink of the Great War, a solar eclipse swept across the continent. Darkness filled the skies just before millions were swallowed by the trenches. In 2017, an eclipse carved a path across the United States, and 7 years later, in 2024, another crossed in the opposite direction, forming an enormous X over the nation. Many saw it as coincidence, but others recognized the trembling of prophecy, warning a land drifting from its creator. And now, September 2025 brings yet another. Just days after the blood moon, the sun is veiled. Two heavenly messengers, one crimson and one black, speak with a single voice. Time is running short. Imagine standing in a crowded street when daylight suddenly vanishes. Children clutch their parents' hands, dogs whimper, strangers look upward in silence. In that moment, every human heart feels its smallness. Power, money, ambition, all become meaningless when the source of light itself disappears. This is the lesson of the solar eclipse. We are not in control. Nations may boast of strength, leaders may claim authority, but the Creator holds the universe in his hands. Darkness descends not to destroy us, but to remind us that dawn belongs to him. Think about your own life. How many times has darkness seemed to overtake you? A season of grief, of confusion, of loss. And yet, just as the eclipse passes, light always returns. The God who commands the sun also commands hope. This is not the end. It is preparation for something greater. But darkness is not the final word. After the crimson moon and the veiled sun comes a moment of perfect balance, where light and darkness meet in delicate tension. That moment, too, speaks volumes. The autumn equinox, the scales of light and darkness. On September the 22nd, 2025, the day and night will stand equal for a single breath of time. 12 hours of light, 12 hours of shadow. The scales of creation will hang in perfect balance before slowly tipping toward darkness. To the casual observer, it is merely the autumn equinox. But to the eyes of faith, it is a sign, ancient and profound. The Bible often speaks of light and darkness, of good and evil, of wheat and weeds growing together until the harvest. Jesus himself told the parable of the wheat and tares, explaining that the righteous and the wicked live side by side until the final separation comes. The equinox mirrors this reality, light and darkness held together, waiting for the hand of God to divide them. Picture a farmer at the edge of his field at harvest. He looks across golden stalks swaying in the breeze, knowing that not every plant is wheat. Among them, weeds have grown tall, stealing water, stealing sunlight. Yet he does not rip them out prematurely. He waits for the right moment, when the harvest can be separated and each given its due. So it is with us. The equinox tells us the season of separation draws near. For your own soul, this is an invitation. Which way do the scales of your life tip? Toward light or toward darkness? Are your choices drawing you closer to grace or deeper into shadows? These questions matter now more than ever. Comment your reflection below, because your answer might inspire someone else searching for hope. There is comfort in knowing that even as night overtakes day, light is never extinguished. The equinox is not a loss, it is a reminder. Darkness comes, but it does not win. It serves its purpose in the cycle of time, reminding us of the urgency to live awake, to embrace the light while it shines. And so the blood moon warns, the solar eclipse humbles, and the equinox whispers of balance before judgment. Together they form a divine sequence, preparing us for the sound of trumpets that will soon echo across the earth. The trumpets of Rosh Hashanah. Awakening the soul. The air in Jerusalem trembled as 100 shofars rose together, their ancient cry piercing through the silence of the world. Imagine standing there, hearing the raw sound of the ram's horn cutting through your heart, not as music, but as a summons. Each note carried both urgency and hope, a reminder that the gates of heaven were open and every soul was being called to wake up. Rosh Hashanah is not merely the Jewish New Year, it is the sound of eternity echoing across the earth, the trumpet blast that awakens even the deepest sleeper. From the beginning, the shofar was not an instrument of entertainment, it was a weapon of the Spirit. It brought down the walls of Jericho. It proclaimed freedom to slaves. It signaled the presence of the Almighty. In 2025, when 100 shofars cried out at once, broadcast live from Jerusalem to every corner of the planet, it was as if God himself placed his trumpet to the lips of creation and whispered, "Awake." The sound is not gentle. It tears through excuses, through apathy, through the haze of distraction. It is the voice that says, "Remember who you are. Remember whose you are." Picture families gathered around their tables, women lighting candles, prayers rising like incense. Children's eyes reflect the flame as fathers speak words of blessing, while outside the streets fill with song. Yet behind the tradition lies a trembling truth. On Rosh Hashanah, the books are opened. The book of life, the book of death, the records of every deed. Every heart stands before its Creator. And so, these days are not only about celebration, they are about awe. 10 days stretch between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the days of awe, when every person is given space to look within, to repent, to return. Think about this. What would you do if you knew you had 10 days to make peace with heaven? 10 days to heal wounds, to forgive, to let go of bitterness. This is the gift of Rosh Hashanah. It awakens us not with fear, but with mercy. The trumpet sounds so that no soul may say, "I did not hear." Perhaps you feel it now, even in your own life, that piercing call to stop, to breathe, to return. The sound of the shofar is not bound to Jerusalem alone. It vibrates through time and space into every heart that listens. Comment below. What does the sound of a trumpet mean to you? Is it alarm or is it hope? The debate lives on, yet the truth remains. It is both. Alarm for the careless, hope for the humble. And as those 10 days unfold, they carry us forward to the holiest moment of all, Yom Kippur, the day the books are sealed. On Yom Kippur, the world holds its breath. The streets of Israel empty, stores close, televisions fall silent. For 25 hours, the nation fasts, prays, weeps. It is the Day of Atonement, the day the high priest once entered the Holy of Holies, carrying the weight of a nation's sins on his shoulders. 2 goats were chosen, one sacrificed, the other sent into the wilderness as the scapegoat, bearing the guilt of the people. In that silence, the destiny of every soul was decided, life or death, blessing or curse. This is no ordinary ritual. It is a rehearsal of the final judgment. Daniel saw the court seated, the books opened. John in Revelation saw the same vision, the dead judged according to their deeds, the book of life opened before the throne. Yom Kippur is not just a date on the calendar. It is eternity breaking into time. In 1973, on this very day, as Israel fasted and prayed, enemies launched a surprise attack. It became the Yom Kippur War, shaking the nation and altering the world. Even in modern history, this day has proven to be a hinge of destiny. And now, October the 1st, 2025 stands before us, not as superstition, but as a convergence of blood moons, eclipses, equinox, trumpets, and at last, judgment. Think of what it means on a personal level. The books are open, but soon they will close. How will your story be written? Not in the shallow details of wealth or success, but in the quiet truth of faith and love. Yom Kippur whispers to us, surrender your pride, lay down your guilt, let grace cover you. The high priest once laid his hands on the scapegoat, transferring the sins of the people. Today, Christ has carried that role for us. He bore the weight so we might walk free. As evening falls, the long blast of the shofar ends the fast, a sound that cuts the air like lightning. It announces that the gates have closed, the verdict sealed. There are no second chances. This truth can terrify, but it can also heal, because those who trust in his mercy need not fear. Judgment is not the end for them, it is the beginning of life. So ask yourself, what would you do differently if today were Yom Kippur for your soul? Would you reconcile, forgive, choose humility? Would you surrender, not tomorrow, but now? Share your heart in the comments. Your answer may awaken another soul. Yet Yom Kippur is not the end of the story. When the fast is broken and the judgment sealed, a new celebration rises like dawn. The Feast of Tabernacles, joy after judgment. After the trembling of Yom Kippur comes the laughter of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles. It is as if heaven says, "Judgment is complete, now come and dwell with me." For 7 days, families build fragile booths with roofs of branches through which the stars shine. Inside these sukkahs, they eat together, invite neighbors, even sleep, remembering how their ancestors lived in the wilderness with only God as their shelter. It is joy born from dependence, a reminder that true security is not in stone walls, but in his presence. Children giggle under the leafy roof, pointing at the constellations. Parents smile, knowing that while the shelter is fragile, the love within is strong. This is the mystery of Sukkot. When we realize how fragile our lives are, joy grows deeper, not weaker. For God himself promises to dwell among his people. In ancient days, water ceremonies filled Jerusalem with celebration. Giant lamps lit the city, water poured on the altar, prayers for rain rising to the heavens. And it was during this festival that Jesus stood and cried, "If anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink." The people asked for rain, but he offered living water, the Spirit who quenches the soul forever. Think of what this means for us. After the blood moon, after the eclipse, after the equinox, after the trumpets, after the solemnity of Yom Kippur, what remains is not despair, but joy. A joy that declares, God is with us. A joy that builds fragile shelters and yet feels eternal security. A joy that knows even in our weakness, his presence makes us strong. For 7 days the people wave 4 types of branches, north, south, east, west, up and down, declaring that his kingdom fills every direction. Imagine standing in such a moment, waving the branches, heart lifted, whispering, "He is everywhere. He is with me." That is healing. That is hope. That is the promise of Sukkot. And it points beyond itself. John wrote that when Christ came, he dwelt among us. The word literally means pitched his tent, set up his tabernacle among humanity. He became our sukkah, our shelter, our presence of God in fragile flesh. And Revelation closes the story with this: "Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them." The Feast of Tabernacles is not nostalgia, it is prophecy. It tells us what God has always desired, not to remain distant, but to dwell forever with his people. So, while the world trembles at judgment, those who trust in him find themselves invited to a feast, Joy after judgment, light after darkness, celebration after solemnity. This is the rhythm of his calendar, the heartbeat of prophecy. As we move forward, these festivals and signs weave together with God's hidden clocks, the creation, the jubilee, the 2,550 days, each striking at once, each telling us the hour is near. The story does not end in fragility. It ends in dwelling, in joy, in the eternal presence of the one who is our shelter forever. God's three prophetic clocks, creation, jubilee, and 2,550 days. Time itself is a mystery, but in the scriptures it is not random. It is ordered, measured, sacred. God placed hidden clocks within history, rhythms that beat beneath the surface of human events. The first clock is the creation clock. 6 days of creation, 1 day of rest. The Apostle Peter gave us the key. With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years. That means 6,000 years of human history, followed by 1,000 years of peace. From Adam to Christ's first coming, about 4,000 years. From Christ until now, another 2,000. 6,000 in total. The sun sets on the 6th day, and the dawn of the 7th, the millennial rest, draws near. The second clock is the Jubilee clock. Every 50 years in Israel, debts were forgiven, slaves set free, land restored. It was a total reset, a healing for society. But beyond history, Jubilee is prophecy. It points to the ultimate release when the Messiah returns, when chains of sin break, when the earth itself breathes free. Ancient scrolls discovered in Qumran even hint that 2025 may align with one of these jubilees, marking not just another cycle, but the one that ushers in transformation. The third is the prophetic clock of 2,550 days. Daniel spoke of 1,290 days, Revelation of 1,260. Put together, they form 2,550, the full span of the end. Begin the count from certain signs, and it leads us directly to Yom Kippur of 2032. Is that coincidence? Or is heaven whispering that the countdown is already underway? 3 clocks, 3 voices, each ticking, each pointing to the same moment. Creation, jubilee, prophecy. The message is not to calculate dates, but to awaken hearts. The lesson is simple. History has a direction, and we are not drifting. We are carried forward on God's timeline toward his promised rest. Comment your thoughts. Do you believe these cycles are signs, or do you see them as symbols? Debate will always stir, but either way, they call us to live ready, to live awake. Signs of the end, global, ecclesial, and Jerusalem. When Jesus was asked about the signs of his return, he did not leave his disciples in silence. He spoke of wars and rumors of wars, of nations rising against nations, of earthquakes and famines. Today we see these headlines daily. From the tremors beneath the earth to the shaking of economies, the birth pangs he described are unmistakable. Painful, yes, but like labor pains, they signal that new life is near. Yet the danger is not only outside, it grows within. Jesus warned of betrayal, of false prophets who would charm people with easy words, of faith growing cold. We see it now, churches divided, many turning from truth to comfortable lies. This, too, is a sign. The end is not only written in wars and disasters, it is written in hearts that lose their fire. But the third sign is centered in one place, Jerusalem. The prophet spoke of abomination, of a leader exalting himself in the holy place, of nations surrounding Israel. Today, as debates rage over the land, as leaders proclaim visions of greater Israel, as wars flare in Gaza and beyond, prophecy feels less like a distant tale and more like the news of the day. Ezekiel named Gog, a leader who would unite nations against Israel. The battle will not be merely political, it will be spiritual, aimed at confronting the God of Israel himself. For you and me, the lesson is not to fear headlines, but to read them with discernment, to see beyond politics into prophecy, to recognize that chaos is not random, it is part of a larger unfolding. Share in the comments. When you see today's wars and divisions, do you feel despair, or do you see signs of hope that prophecy is alive? This is not about fear, it is about trust. For when nations rage, it is God who holds the outcome. The great darkness and the coming King. Imagine looking up and seeing the stars fall, the sky torn apart, the sun and moon no longer shining. The heavens themselves convulse as if creation were gasping. This is not a normal eclipse. It is the moment when the universe signals that the King is arriving. Jesus said it would be like lightning flashing across the whole sky, impossible to miss. Revelation declares, "Behold, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him." For some, this vision will bring joy unspeakable. The long-awaited moment, the trumpet sounding, the dead rising, the faithful caught up in glory. For others, it will be anguish beyond words, for the day of grace will be over. The same light that brings joy to the waiting will bring terror to the unprepared. The great darkness, then, is not destruction, it is transition. It is the silence before the music, the shadow before the sunrise. It calls us to readiness, to hope, to courage. When night seems deepest in your own life, remember, it is often the very moment before dawn. The trumpet that will sound is not only for nations, it is for you. It calls you home, into the arms of the one who loves you beyond measure. This is the hypnotic beauty of prophecy. It does not end in fear, it ends in light. Comment your reflection. Does this vision fill you with trembling or with hope? For in truth it will be both, the trembling of awe and the hope of homecoming. The only way of salvation, grace, through Christ. And so we come to the heart of it all. Signs in the sky, wars on the earth, clocks in history. These are important, but they are not the center. The center is a cross on a hill 2,000 years ago. Because no matter how righteous we think we are, no work, no deed, no effort can place our names in the book of life. Only grace can. Only the blood of Christ, poured out like the crimson of the blood moon, can cover us. He lived the life we could not live, and he bore the judgment we could not bear. He opened the door we could not unlock. His resurrection is the key, his righteousness the robe, his love the shelter. Salvation is not achieved. It is received. It is not earned. It is given. Perhaps you carry guilt that clings like chains. Perhaps you feel unworthy, distant, forgotten. Hear this. Grace is stronger. Grace is the jubilee that sets captives free, the living water of Sukkot, the light that pierces eclipse and equinox. Grace is Jesus himself, whispering to your weary heart, "Come to me, and I will give you rest." This is the invitation that matters above all signs. While the world argues over dates, heaven asks a simpler question. Are you ready? Not ready with charts and calendars, but ready with a surrendered heart, ready with faith that clings to grace, ready with love that overflows into others. And so the story draws us closer. Blood moons, eclipses, equinoxes, trumpets, judgment, tabernacles, clocks, signs, and the great darkness. They all point to Him, the one who alone can save. Do not delay. Share your heart below. What does grace mean to you? Your words may become the seed of healing for someone else searching for hope. For when everything else crumbles, when kingdoms fall and stars dim, Christ alone will remain. He is the beginning and the end, the Alpha and Omega, the Lamb and the King. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And in Him, even the final trumpet is not a sound of fear, but of homecoming. When all the signs are gathered, the blood moon glowing red like a celestial wound, the solar eclipse veiling the sun in silence, the equinox balancing light and darkness, the trumpets of Rosh Hashanah crying out to awaken the soul, Yom Kippur sealing the books of life and death, and the Feast of Tabernacles celebrating fragile shelters under eternal stars. We see that history is not drifting, but moving with holy precision. The prophetic clocks of creation, Jubilee, and the 2,550 days all whisper the same truth. Time is drawing near, and the season of fulfillment is upon us. Yet, in the midst of trembling nations and shaking skies, there is a deeper story, not about fear, but about love, not about chaos, but about the God who longs to dwell with His people forever. Picture yourself standing under that crimson moon. The world holds its breath, yet within you a quiet voice says, "Do not fear." For every sign in the heavens is not meant to crush you, but to awaken you. Think of how many times in your own life darkness threatened to overwhelm you, and yet the dawn returned. The eclipse passed. The storm broke. The equinox tipped again toward light. These are not just cosmic events. They are reflections of the human heart. Each of us carries seasons of blood and darkness, moments of judgment and moments of grace, and through them all, one truth shines. Christ is our shelter, our living water, our eternal light. The greatest danger is not war or famine, not earthquakes or collapsing empires. The greatest danger is forgetting who we are, losing the fire within, letting the heart grow cold. The shofar blasts to shake us awake, reminding us that every soul is seen, every choice matters, every moment carries eternal weight. Yom Kippur is not just a day in Israel. It is the day every human heart must face, the moment when the book closes, when excuses vanish, when truth alone stands. Yet the miracle of grace is this: while we breathe, the gates remain open. While we still walk this earth, the invitation to return is offered freely. The Feast of Tabernacles reminds us that joy follows judgment, that fragile shelters are stronger than stone walls when filled with His presence. Think of a family gathered in a simple booth, branches overhead, stars peeking through, children laughing, bread breaking, prayers rising. It is a picture of eternity, when God Himself will dwell with humanity, when the temporary gives way to the everlasting. This is the promise hidden in prophecy, not merely survival, but joy, not fear, but fellowship. And so, as we look to the future, to the final trumpet and the great darkness before the dawn, we do not tremble as those without hope. We look with expectation, with hearts ready, knowing that the King is faithful. He will not delay. He will come as lightning across the sky, and every eye will see Him. For some, that light will be terror. For others, it will be the homecoming of all homecomings. The choice is made now, not then. Ask yourself, when the trumpet sounds, what will it mean for you? Will it be alarm or hope, anguish or joy? Comment your thoughts below because your reflection might stir another heart awake. Do you believe these blood moons, eclipses and prophetic clocks are coincidences, or do you see them as the hand of God writing across the sky? These are not idle questions. They are invitations to wrestle with eternity. Let this moment be more than just watching another video. Let it be a turning point, a call to breathe deeper, to forgive, to love, to surrender. If these words have touched you, if this message has brought even a flicker of light into your night, I ask gently, show your support by subscribing, by sharing, by leaving a comment that speaks life. Every small gesture is not small at all. It becomes a ripple of hope that travels further than you can see. And if you feel moved to lend even a little energy, know that it fuels not just a channel, but the spreading of light, the continuation of stories that heal weary souls. Every bit of encouragement is a treasure beyond measure, a reminder that none of us walk this path alone. Remember, the sky may shake, the nations may rage, but love remains. When kingdoms fall and stars fade, Christ endures. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the Lamb and the King, the shelter in the storm and the light in the darkness. He is the reason every sign points not to fear, but to hope. So let your heart rest in this. You are not forgotten, you are not alone, and you are deeply loved. As the final notes of this message echo, carry them with you into your own nights and days. Let the blood moon remind you of grace, the eclipse of humility, the equinox of balance, the trumpet of awakening, the day of atonement of surrender, and the tabernacle of joy. Let every sign speak healing into your soul. And when you look to the sky and see its wonders, may you whisper with quiet confidence, I am ready, for He is with me. If this journey has given you strength, share it. If it has stirred questions, write them below. If it has awakened hope, let your voice be heard. And above all, hold on to the promise that when everything else crumbles, He alone remains, and He is enough.